All right, gang. Today we are going to go over, one way to send out invoice reminders. So in this particular scenario, I decided to use a tag to start the sequence, um, or to start the campaign. You could use a tag, or you can use a note template as well. The advantage of using a note template is that you will have a date timestamp of every single time that you needed to start this sequence. Okay, and so I'm going to kind of go through real quick, and I'll show you, some other variations of this that you can do. And it's all just a matter of preference and what goes on for you. But ultimately, this is good for people who are sending out invoices that maybe are irregular. Like you don't send them out on a regular basis, or maybe the invoice itself is irregular, where you need to create almost a new product every time you send out an invoice. There's different scenarios for this, but here we go. So what we're going to do is, let's say that we've sent out an invoice and the person hasn't paid, and it's been a few days, right? And they should have paid by now, and we want to send them a reminder. What we could do is then go ahead and apply this tag. And when we apply that tag, they go into the invoice reminder sequence. And we've got one email that goes out to them, wait 2 days, another email that goes out to them, wait 2 days, and then a task for us to follow up with that person. So in these emails, I make mine kind of humorous, where it says, hey, it's just an automated, your friendly automated message from Kevin, to pay your invoice, and because I don't actually put the invoice in the email, and I know that they've gotten it already, I put language in there that says, hey, if you need me to send it to you again, just reply to this email and I will be glad to send it to you again. So I put language like that in there. And I also even put a link in there for people to sign up for a regularly scheduled appointment. So in this particular scenario, if they're a new customer, maybe they haven't signed up for their meeting yet, the regular meeting, and so this would be a way that they could do that. And then again, we've got wait 2 days, send another email, very similar, wait 2 days, and then a task is created for me that says, hey, this person still hasn't, it's been 4 days now, or more than 4 days, and they haven't, done this, reach out to them. And so the invoice here, I created the first name, last name, and then invoice follow-up. And the reason that I like to put first name, last name here is because when you are doing, let's say that you're using My Day, all the tasks are set up on the side, and I like to know who the task is for. Where if you just have, let's say, this end part like invoice follow-up, cancel. If you just have this invoice follow-up here, this last part, invoice follow-up, it might, like, if your task name is too long, in My Day, there's only so many characters allowed, and so it would just say, like, invoice follow-up, and then you might not see the name of who you got to follow up with. And I like to be able to see the name of who I've got to follow up with, because generally speaking, if I see the name, I kind of already know what I've got to do, and so that makes me feel more comfortable when I'm looking at My Day. So again, just my preference. And so inside, again, I put like the same information, and you could put like their phone number in here just to kind of make it easier. And then, I don't set this task until it's due, so days until due, 0. It's due right now. I signed it to myself. I created that here. And then this up here, the type, right? What kind of task is it? So right now you could choose one of these, right? Or if you wanted to create a custom one, right? And I'll show you how you can do that and why you might want to do that here in a minute. But maybe you want to create a custom task type called invoice reminder, right? If it's important enough, you can create a new custom task type called custom reminder or invoice reminder and select it as that. So for now, I'm just going to call it update. Okay, and so that is the task. All right, and so that they get into this sequence. Now I've got it set up for where if they make any purchase at all, right? Because in this scenario, they shouldn't be purchasing anything other than the invoice I sent them. So if they purchase anything at all, then that will pull them out of the sequence, and it will go ahead and put them over here to where it will remove this tag right here, right? And the reason that I want to remove that tag over here is so that I can apply it again if I need to and have them come into this sequence. Then over here, I've got the paid invoice, right? So if they paid by any other means, maybe they sent me a check, maybe they paid with maybe somebody else from the company paid, right? So it was under a different email address, thus in a different contact. Then I can go ahead and apply this note so that we can stop the sequence and make sure that they don't get the second email. So that is about it for this, right? Another way that you could set this up, again, you can use a note template to start it. And if you already have like a feel for, like you've got a ton of customers or that you're sending this out for, you could actually start this thing with a timer, right? And so as soon as you send out the invoice, you could apply that tag or a note template, and then have a timer start right here that will wait, however long is appropriate for you, and then just automatically send out this first email. And then again, if they purchase anything, right, this will stop before they even get that first email and go into here, right? So that's another way that you could do that. Again, totally up to your preferences. So here are some things about the task that I wanted to cover. We talked about in the task, you've got the different options. Okay, let's go back and just kind of look at it real quick. Oops, wrong one. Okay, so here you've got like the different options, right? I chose update. Well, if you wanted to customize that list, you can go to CRM settings, and under CRM settings, you can go to task appointment note settings. Okay, and here you can change it, right? And so let's say I wanted to put like invoice reminder. Right, I could put an invoice reminder in there and hit save, and now that would also be in that list. Okay, now where would that come into play? Why would that help? So if we go to admin reports, okay, if we go to admin reports, right, that would take us here, and we can go to this task note report. And let's start over. And if we go to this task note report, in this case, right, maybe we want to take tasks and notes that are created, right? And generally speaking, it's date range today and past due. You can go to all. In this case, I'll go to all. And then over here in completion status, we want to say that are incomplete. Okay, so this could be future tasks, like tasks that aren't due yet that are incomplete. But obviously, I set mine up to be due that day. So if I left it at past today and past due, that would actually be perfect for this case. But anyhow, just so that you know some of those options and what they do. And then if I come over here to miscellaneous criteria, right, I would choose assign ones that are assigned to me. But then down here where it says task type, okay, again, I chose mine as update, but if I had that invoice reminder, right, then I can have that other task here, right, and it would only pull tasks that were invoice reminders, okay? And so I could choose that, and then I can hit search, and then once I've got this list, I could save this search, and I can give it a name called invoice reminders, and then I can add it to my user dashboard, so that way I can see it right there on my dashboard anytime anybody pops in there and say, oh, all right, I got a task. I got to go call this person and let them know, or basically track down the invoice, right? So that's a great way to kind of set up an invoice reminder for yourself, where all you need to do is either apply a note or apply a tag, and boom, it's off and running. And like I said, you could actually set it up automatically so that when you send off the invoice, you also create the tag or apply the note right then and there, and all this is set up for you automatically. So hopefully you enjoyed that. Hopefully you found that relatively helpful. I'm going to go ahead and give you one more little tip here. When you're creating note templates, all right, I always recommend that whatever you name the template, right, whatever you label the template, you also give the same title as well. And here's why. When you go to a contact record, let's say that you're going to a contact record and you're just trying to see what has happened, right? For whatever reason, you got to backtrack and see what's going on. When you come to notes, all right, if you wanted to add a note, right, you can see the notes that were already there. If you wanted to add a note, okay, you've got this list, okay? Now in this list, this is what you've labeled what shows up here in this list is what you labeled the note template, okay? So if we go back to the note template, what shows up in that list is here. Whatever you type down here is what is going to show up in this list, okay? But then after you apply the note, okay, down here you get the note name, right? So the note title. And so like, you know, obviously I do a lot of tests, so you can kind of see that I've got some tests in there, okay? But the note title is what you have here, what you put there, right? So if those things are different, right, then it might be hard to kind of figure out like what's going on down here versus what's like, you know, how they did that. You know, and so you'd have to kind of click these things. You had to click through each one of them to see, oh, that was the note that I applied. Okay. And so it just takes longer if you ever have to go back and kind of look and see what was going on. So, so that's why I always recommend for people to label those both the same way. All right, hopefully that was helpful. A little bit longer than usual, but hopefully you got something out of that, some extra little tips and tricks in there. And I will see you guys next week. Not at open office hours, because I've actually changed the name to now the Wednesday Whiteboard. So it's Whiteboard Wednesday, right? So I will see you next week at Whiteboard Wednesday. All right, talk to you later. Take care.